Hello, welcome to. That was a weird intro, wasn't it? Oh, should we pretend that didn't exist and start again? Hello, welcome to the Crown Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Rob Warner for this one. Lovely t-shirt, by the way, Rob. Only just spotted.
Thanks, mate. I like it. It's
one positive, at least, to talk about, potentially.
Yeah, I might see if I can get a new one tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. We've got some good news and bad news. New Founders t-shirt, Villa lost. You're still thinking about the bad news, right? Right, enough Gervais references out in the first 45 seconds. My mic sounds really hot. It's annoying me. Hello, everybody. I will start by saying, my mic's not on, says Ian. Hold on, Rob. Apologies for this. Let me double check.
All right. Do you want me to talk some initial waffle?
It isn't. How does that? Does that sound better?
Oh, lovely.
There we go. All right. Let's pretend all that didn't happen. Hello, welcome to the Clout and Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Rob Warner. Rob, lovely t-shirt. New one's out tomorrow. Great, thank you. Right.
There we go. Perfect. See you all next week, guys.
Lots of weird comments. Let's start with of hate for John Townley being too positive or won't say it like it is. I replied to somebody earlier on before we started of how are these two going to dress this up into a positive? And I replied, you clearly not been watching that long because when it's bad, we'll say it's bad. And that was shite, right? That was really bad. We're not going to sit here and go, well, at least McGinn played well, or didn't Watkins look good? It doesn't matter. None of that's important. We've lost.
None of it happened either.
We've lost to a relegation threatened side, in my opinion. We haven't scored a goal this season. There's no way of saying that was okay some places. That was really, really bad. Now, this idea, and we get it all the time, when Villa don't play well, it's that, we can't say what we think, so we might get banned from a press conference. Oh, no. We can say what we like, and we do say what we like. So that was really bad, Rob. Really, really bad. One of the worst games of the Emery era, if you want to kind of put it in some kind of category of Palace, Man United, Olympiacos, these no-shows that are getting a little bit too frequent for my liking.
Yeah, and they all seem to centre around us playing walking football. Where we mess around with the ball so much at the back in these situations, these circumstances. It's clearly a directive from the manager. I don't know what it is that we're trying to achieve by playing football like that. Martinez stands with the ball at his feet for ages and then passes it to one of the central defenders, gets it back again. I know we're trying to bait the press, but we never seem to be able to spring the trap. Whereas when we play on the front foot, like we did in the second half, they offered no threat at all, really. And if we play like that for 90 minutes and we've got players in the right positions, which is another challenge that I think we're facing at the moment, and not just the two central defenders, I think we're just completely shy of attacking players on the field when we kick off the match. It's just the style of football that we played in qualifying for the Champions League has disappeared since last summer. Yeah, we've only rarely seen it. Usually when we're backs to the wall and we're getting the ball up the field in a few incisive passes and then causing a trouble for the opposition defence. I think maybe Diaby leaving cost us some pace up front. Leon Bailey just going completely backwards cost us pace in attack as well. But we've got quick players at the club now. Marlon's been here since January. Why is John McGinn starting wide right?
Well, that's the weird thing for me today. McGinn's played that role loads of times, off the right, but coming inside, maybe into a middle three, maybe playing off the strike or whatever. Starting on that side, but coming in. Today he's playing right wing, like he's on the touchline. I'm not suggesting Gesson is that or Marlon is that, but there's surely more that than John McGinn is. And I like McGinn, and I'll stick up for him until the cows come home and people don't like him and whatever. That's your opinion. But playing him on that side to be part of a midfield, sound. Playing him on that side to help be a busybody up front and get in and around Watkins, also fine in my opinion. To play him on the right side and expect him to be a right-sided midfielder, a right winger, when you have pacey, actual wide players on the bench, is baffling. And people say things like, well, he's the captain, so he has to play. You don't have to play your captain. You can take him out of the team.
No.
But McGinn, Emery clearly likes him. And again, that's fine. He's the manager. He is his captain. But that's not his role, is it? Right wing? Come on.
Yeah. He just doesn't offer anything on that side for me at all. I don't understand what the thinking is. He has to cut back on his left foot to cross it, which, he's a good crosser of the ball with his left foot. But it's entirely predictable You know, he's like an even slower Leon Bailey. And yes, he can protect the ball and whatever else, but we so rarely need to protect the ball because by the time we've got it, anything near the opponent's third of the field, everybody's back. 11 players behind the ball. You could count it again and again and again today. We had 0 players caught offside in the whole game today. So as much as I regularly come on here and talk about we lack quick players, we lack pace, which again has done for us in defence. Last week we were done for pace and got a red card. This week we were done for pace and conceded a goal.
Yeah.
Up front, it wouldn't have made any difference. We could have had a hybrid of Usain Bolt and Pele playing up front for us today, and it wouldn't have made any difference because it was just so slow getting it forward. You look at who completed the most passes for us today, and no surprise that it's Torres and Mings. But how progressive were those passes? I thought the majority of Torres's ambitious attempts at passes weren't very good.
No, agreed. Yeah.
Like Mings is the only one that we've got right now that looks like a fully competent defender. That said, I thought Cash had a decent game today. I'm gonna stick up for him today and say I thought he did all right, especially against a quick winger. But you look at that starting 11, and realistically, if you think about out and out attacking players, it's Watkins and Rodgers, and then you've got basically 5 midfielders and 4 defenders. It's just a madness. It's no wonder we can't create chances. And I feel like having, in a game like that particularly, Onana and Kamara as a double pivot with Tielemans further forward doesn't seem to work. I think perhaps Tielemans does do his best work as a number 8, like the shirt off the back,
100%.
Not a number 10. I think that game today was crying out for Marco Asensio. And I know people are concerned about his age, although he's younger than Watkins, or his salary. But the reality is, all the times I saw him in a Villa shirt last season, I can't think I saw him miscontrol the ball or barely misplace a pass. And yet today, they were all at it. It was rubbish. And as for Morgan Rodgers,
I wanted to talk about him, yeah.
I just don't know what's going on. 2 league goals in 2025, as we discussed during the game. His touch is off. He just looks... I know people last season, including me, were saying he's playing on the right. It's not his position. It's hampering him. I don't think that's an excuse. Now we've seen it again at the start of the season. He looks exactly the same. He looks like somebody that you would sign for 10 million quid from Middlesbrough.
And that point, before I get onto Rodgers, he looks exactly the same. The squad looks exactly the same. I know we've been hamstrung in the transfer market, but you've got Marlon, who's not hardly getting any minutes. Gesson's only just signed, so yeah, it's game 2 for him, and he's featured. I'm not going to be like, oh, he never gets a look in. He's been here 5 minutes, realistically.
He was my man of the match today as well, by the way.
Yeah, look bright, look lively. I want to see him start. I want to see him start on the right-hand side or wherever, like something different. It just feels too samey. It feels like, I don't know whether Villa were banking on a big sale, because we've sold Ramsey and we can't invest it. So maybe a bigger sale than that potentially. But you almost feel like it probably needed that refresh. It needed what Ferguson teams used to do every so often. It'd be, right, rip it up and start again. We need to change this around to keep things fresh and keep things going. You can't keep kind of flogging the same dead horse over and over and over again and expect it to do good things. Now, could Villa still be good this season? Absolutely. It's the second game of the season. It's relatively meaningless to a point. It's not performance-wise. We look terrible, and I've said that. But could we now go and win the next 4 in a row, for example, and look fine again? Yeah, of course we could, in theory. However, there are concerning signs that we are and have squeezed so much juice out of these players, there's nothing left for some of them. I don't know whether they're the right players anymore to take us forward. And you maybe needed a big sale of and I don't want us to sell them, but if there was a Morgan Rodgers £100 million bid in further back in the summer, and that gave us 100 million to actually reinvest 4 or 5 positions, the squad would now feel a lot more fresh because of that. And that gives everybody a bit of a lift. You look around the squad and you think, who's going to change this? Probably nobody, because I know what this squad gives us. 15 minutes in, Kamara comes off, change the formation. Emi Buendia comes on. Not deemed good enough for several transfer windows, and he's the saviour
Not just
now.
by us, but by buying teams as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had a lot of like, oh, you've been too against Buendia. And he's fine, right? He's an okay footballer. I'm sure he'd do a job somewhere in the bottom half of the Premier League / top end of the Championship.
Just like the team that he signed for.
Yeah, well, true, exactly. We've progressed beyond him. And yeah, he'll run around a little bit and he'll look like he gives a bit of a damn, but he's not at the standard. You know, if we're talking about building the squad, if that was Asensio coming on, there's a level of quality there straight away. Right, Buendia's a hard worker, but you've had your chance. Now, I've said it so many times. All right, you're good in pre-season. When you get your chance, 75 minutes against a relatively crap Brentford team, I think. They've defended okay today, don't get me wrong. But that's on you as the creative number 10. Go and unlock them then. If you're so good in this position, if you're that talented, it's just strange. There's something not quite right about us at the moment. I've gone away from Rodgers for a second. We'll come back to him, but I feel the way the back end of the season unfolded, those last couple of games, the summer window we've had, the first 2 games we've had now, something isn't right. And I'm not suggesting Emery's lost the dressing room or the players hate each other or whatever, but something about us, whether it's fitness or whatever, something's not quite clicking right. I don't know what it is. Do you get that same vibe?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I think what's interesting, I'll keep a close eye on Newcastle because obviously my best mate and business partner is a Newcastle supporter for those of you that watch some of my other YouTube content. And so I keep a close eye on them. And we tend to have, other than us getting into Europe every season when they didn't, we tend to be mapping what they've done, but 12 months behind for obvious reasons because their takeover and Eddie Howe getting the job there was 12 months before us. And we're pretty much where they were 12 months ago, where they'd kind of been found out. You squeezed as much juice as you could out of those players. I think looking at the team that started today, again, most of them joined the club under Smith or Gerrard.
Yeah.
We can ask the question as to why is that? Is that something to do with Monchi or what's the deal with Emery? I mean, Marlon's coming. He always looks sharp to me when I see him. He looks a threat. Why is he not getting a game? Why did we even buy him if we were never going to start him? If we were going to start him, what's his intended role going to be? I think it does need a change up and a refresh. I think we've outgrown quite a few of the players that I see in that team.
But that's not going to happen now in this window. It's too late for that.
Oh, yeah, totally. But there definitely needs to be additions. There's got to be space for additions because, from looking at the subs bench, we've got what appeared to be an under-14s goalkeeper or something sitting on the bench for us. I thought Bogard was rubbish when he came on. There were a couple of times where we had possession on the edge of their box in the same phase of play. We were holding on to the ball, and all he had to do was look to his left. And he'd got Tielemans right by the penalty spot in space, and he went back out wide both times. And it's that we just lack that vision, that real cutting edge. All the phrases that you'd want about breaking the lines and whatever else. I've just seen Douglas Luiz's name popping up in the comments. I wouldn't have necessarily wanted us to bring him back this summer, but we definitely miss that ability to be able to break the lines with a pass, but then it's taking us so long to get it forward that it's almost impossible to break the lines anyway. Second half, Brentford had got 5 back, dead easy for them. And it was only the last 15 minutes that they'd actually got 3 attackers to worry about. The whole thing was it's just bonkers. I don't get what the tactics were in the first half. And I see it too often. My dad's 91 years old, and when I watch the Villa with him, he'll sit there and just be like, "What are they trying to do? Why are they just passing it side to side to side? Why is the keeper standing there with it for 30 seconds?" And I used to try and talk him around. Oh, they're trying to bait the press. They're trying to get the opponents onto them and then get through them. He's like, "Well, it's not working. Nobody falls for it." And it's true, they don't. If I could have done Keith Andrews' job today. Anybody that watches Villa could say, right, just get 11 men behind the ball, defend deep, and just bash it over the top when you get the chance.
Mm.
And at some point, you'll get an opportunity. Newcastle almost did it last week, and Conser basically saved us from a defeat.
Yeah.
This week, it didn't happen. You know, they got through and they put the ball in the net. First half, we made over 240 passes and Brentford made 66 passes. And what did their keeper have to do? We had a well-worked corner that, yes, he made a good save because it came through a crowd of players, but it was a rubbish shot.
Mm.
You know, just there was nothing. There was just nothing. The first half was garbage. I think if we played 90 minutes like we did the second half, I don't think we probably would have conceded a goal to start with. And I think we'd be sitting here feeling quite different. So if I was looking for reasons to be positive, that second half we were dominant just without creating anything. And like you say, there just weren't the options on the bench. And that's where, you know, we looked like we did last year before Asensio and Rashford joined.
Yeah,
and
it's the same as last season.
One of them can control the ball and pick a pass, and the other one's rapid and can beat a player. So can Gassond step into that Rashford role? Maybe. He looked pretty handy today and he looked strong and up for it. First 2 minutes, I thought we'd signed vintage Didier Drogba, the way he was just smashing players off the ball. But yeah, I mean, the difference between, say, Asensio and Buendia is just unspeakable. You know, it's one of them's won the Champions League 3 times and the other one won the championship, and then we spent 40 million quid on him. He still remains our third most expensive signing of all time.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rodgers a little bit. Really poor. Really, really poor. I felt the same way last week, to be honest. There was those 2, I don't know what I'd call them chances, but opportunities or moments in the Newcastle game where Rodgers, it broke down through him, kind of tripped over his own feet twice, I think it was. Yeah. Really kind of, what's he doing? Is he not quite fit or something? And that might be the case, right? Villa was so coy. You never know. Half of these things, you push them on something and they don't want to give you anything. Is he carrying a knock? Maybe. This is the newly crowned PFA Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year. For what? You're right. In the league, a couple of goals all year, which surprised me a little bit because, off the right at the back end of last season, less effective, but got goal contributions. I think it was 7 or 8 or something off the right. But in the league, not that many. They came in the Champions League and the cup competitions. But it's been a while. He's not looked quite right, and we thought, is it because he's playing on the right? I don't know what his best position is, really, because I don't mind him off the left. But then he plays off the left and you think, no, that don't work either. I think he's better in behind. But
I think he's another one of those players, just like when we were seeing the best out of him and out of Leon Bailey as well. I think he's one of those players where it's just too easy to double up on him. So he needs other good attacking players around him to create space.
Yeah.
Watkins is running the channels and trying to open up space for himself, but he's typically got 2 players marking him anyway, Watkins, because it's the 2 central defenders. And then Rodgers, whether he drifts inside or whatever, you can just stick players on him or zonal mark him and pick up. You know, we've seen him do well where he's had to, and he's been able to, and he did do it a couple of times today. You know, he's beaten players with quick feet and strength and got away a little bit. But then what? There's nobody around him, nobody near him. Whereas when we'd got Bailey on one side, Rodgers on the other, you know, playing good football, Diaby and Bailey in the team, you know, we'd got things happening where there was a lot for the opposition to think about. And with John McGinn, if we find him further up the field and he holds the ball up, great. But nobody's got to worry about him beating his man and doing them for pace or whatever else. You can put one player on John McGinn and know that, yes, he'll hold the ball up. And that helps us get players forward, but it also helps them get set again. You know, we don't need to be holding the ball up with the way we play football. We've got to be able to turn somebody and get in behind. And we never do it. Never do it. It's it's really frustrating. And I think that to me would make a difference if we stop the tippy-tappy walking football at the back and are more ambitious like we were in the second half, like we were against PSG. You know, we know this team can play that type of football. And then we just need more attackers on the field.
And
we can't be
speed as
going
well.
into it with Rodgers and Watkins as the only attacking threats.
I think there will
McGinn score last season in the league too.
Yeah, something like that. I think there will be incomings. What that level is, no idea. But I think there will be options for Villa to choose from. Who knows who they are, what that will end up looking like. The forward options, it's definitely part of that is a service thing that they just don't get the ball often enough in good areas to make an impact in the first place. You know, I said to you during the game, I don't feel like I'm watching Villa. I feel like I'm watching Martina, Mings, and Dean just having a bit of a kickabout. Because if I'm watching the game, it's them who are on the ball more often than I want to see Rodgers on the ball. I want to see Marlon or Watkins or whatever actually picking up the ball and doing something with it. So part of it is a service thing that they're not getting it. But then I still think there's too many times when they have got it and they don't know what to do with it, or they run down a blind alley, or Rodgers trips over his own feet, or he tries to do one step over too many and the opportunity's gone. It just, something isn't quite clicking up front either. Rodgers at times just looks like he's not really interested, to me, is the vibe I get. I don't know whether that's just his personality. Do you remember that clip last year when Watkins was talking to him and he turns around and pulls a face and everyone was like, "Ooh, he hates Watkins."
I did not see that, no.
To me, that's a bit of a nothing thing, but I brought it up as like there's this kind of, I think, perception of him that he's quite arrogant or cocky or whatever, and maybe he's too big for his boots, that kind of thing. But I just don't think something about him isn't right at the moment, it looks like. And this is into the back end of last season as well, so it probably isn't a knock or an injury. Whether it's a confidence thing or I don't know, like you might have thought at the back end of last season, like maybe his head's been turned for a summer move. But then there's an interview this week that he's happy at Villa and, you know, staying, and doesn't look like he's leaving with 1 week to go in this window. Villa said they're not going to sell any more players. So what is it about him that when he gets the ball at his feet and he should be this powerful runner that takes teams on, he looks a shadow of that. He doesn't look right. How can that be a thing?
I think so much of his good work when he first joined the club was he was great at playing on the transition and getting the ball and turning and running with it. But he needs space to run into. We give him the ball now, and he's got players with 3 players within a couple of yards of him most of the time. So it is difficult. I can imagine he is getting frustrated with it. You know, the style of play has changed, and it is just very, very pedestrian. But that said, at the end of last season, as much as we won 8 games and then, bottled it basically in the last match, after the end of the season, looking at the squad, I only really felt like Tielemans and Kamara were the only players that were indispensable to us. And knowing that we would need to make a big money sale, I just felt like, well, whoever is the sacrificial lamb doesn't really matter if it's for the greater good. So whether that's him or anybody else, I think it's just stale's the only word.
Yeah. But then, as we've seen with the Ramsey thing, we've made 40 million of pure profit there, and Villa say they can't invest it or don't expect to invest that heavily in terms of big transfer fees. So if we'd have sold Rodgers for 60, let's say, could we invest that anyway? Do you know what I mean? Like it needs a refresh, but I don't know if we can do that. It's a comment from Matt. It says, Palace next game, given our recent history with the fixture, does Emery try not to lose or go for it? You have to go for it. But I don't know if he will. I don't know if he will, because it's a home game, yes. It's Crystal Palace, and to be fair, at home it is different than away. But we've still got this thing of Emery versus Glasner. It just doesn't seem to, work out from Emery's side of things. If Villa were to go into that international break without a win for the first 3 games of the season, when we're all probably expecting 6 points, maybe 7 even, to have 1 or 2 would be disastrous, I think. And again, could you still have a good season? Of course. But to not win any of those games, Newcastle, Brentford and Palace, or win just 1 even beating Palace, it's still not a great start, 4 points. So what changes in a week, Rob? Anything? A signing, maybe? Do they start anyway? Probably not. Do they come off the bench for 10 minutes if we need a goal?
Seem cautious about throwing new signings straight in, although he did with Asensio. He didn't with Rashford, did he? I feel like did Asensio go straight in? But
I want to see. I said this in the preview stuff we did before the season. I want to see us play with speed and not necessarily pace in terms of just quick runners, quick passing. Getting the ball and getting it moving quick. One touch, go, movement. Movement is more as key as pace. Yeah, you've got to get up the pitch. But if you can have a nice little 1-2, and this is very simplistic, but it creates just a split second of, right, we're in now. And you go from being quite pedestrian, because Emery will always do that. He always has done. That's not going to change. We'll be slow at the back and we'll be patient, but you choose your moment to go. And when you go, you go. And it's too often that we get the chance to go and we come back and we go inside again and we recycle the ball and we go again and we go again and we go again and we wait for the perfect moment. Sometimes you don't need that perfect moment. Sometimes you go, gets on runs, gets a little bobble and he's in. Yeah. I can't remember who scored last week. Might have been the Ekatike one, and somebody likened it to Suarez. You know, how he always kind of just ran at people and the ball would bobble around, but he still get through somehow. Yeah. Sometimes a bit of that. That's not perfect. It looks sloppy and it looks messy, but if you just have a go sometimes.
Well, I think Rodgers has historically, he did look good at doing that, whereas now it's, I don't know, like I say, because it's the slow build-up that's doing it in my mind. There's no two ways about it. It's absolutely, by the time either of our two attackers get anywhere near the ball, they're just completely surrounded. There's no space for them to get into. There's no space for them to run into, to look for the ball. You know, sit deep and lump it. And it don't really matter who you are, whether you're Newcastle, Brentford, Liverpool, you can play like that against us. If you've got quick attackers, you're going to do us. And this was where, as much as we beat PSG at Villa Park, but where they, did a job on us in the first leg and at times in the second leg and at everybody else, which is why they went on to win the competition, is that they're just able to do that. And yes, you're talking about, almost £1 billion football team, but they've got pace on the flanks, they've got runners, they've got people who are calm on the ball. When we're passing it around trying to break the press, I don't feel confident watching it that, we're going to ping this around and suddenly somebody's going to be in space. I'm watching it thinking somebody's going to give this away in a minute, or we're just going to end up going backwards with it. And that's certainly for the first half an hour, even after the goal, that was exactly what we were doing. Pass it side to side a bit, move it maybe into midfield. Been hanging around too long. Nobody's pressing us high because they don't need to. Just wait for us to make a mistake or let us slowly trudge up the field and then launch it.
Yeah. If Emi Buendia is the answer, Rob, what is the question?
The question would be, what happens if you spend 40 million quid on a footballer who's only good for the Championship and then they consequently get injured, making them worse than they were when you signed them, and then you can't get rid of them and you're not allowed to spend money until you've got rid of players. So, I mean, if he costs 40 million quid, what's he getting paid? Well, he's got to be earning a decent whack, hasn't he? Which makes it even harder to get rid of him. And based on the SCR thing, makes him more of a liability in the squad. He did have a good run for us when Emery first came in. I seem to remember him scoring a lot of headers as well, which was bizarre.
Yeah, scored one at Everton, didn't he, I think?
But, yeah, it's just...
To me, that's a... Sorry, Rob. To me, that is a sign
I feel like we're looking for that moment of magic all the time, whether it's him or anybody else. It's more likely to come from an Asensio. But if we've got a flat back four passing side to side, even on the halfway line, with 11 defenders in front of us, and Rodgers really the only one that can use a bit of trickery to beat a man. Got no chance. You can't just pass it through 11 people.
Yeah. I was going to make a point then, and I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
So no, it's all right. Oh, I remember. To me, that's a little bit like a sign of that we've gone backwards from a recruitment perspective. If we are he replaced Jack Grealish, right? How long ago was that? And the other players that replaced Jack Grealish are no longer here. And I think if Villa got their way with a good offer, Emi Buendia wouldn't be here either.
Yeah.
So when he's the first substitute, we've gone backwards then because this player was deemed not good enough. And maybe Emery's changed his mind over the summer. Maybe he's seen something in pre-season or training that Buendia can offer something this season. But to me, that's just that we haven't had a good enough offer for him. So I think he'd have been one of the first out the door on a decent wage, clearly not been favoured by this manager. So when he's your first substitute, your recruitment's not been great. And speaking
Yeah.
of, a lot of talk in the comments about, us being hamstrung by the rules and the PSR and whatever else. However, it's difficult as a club and as a fan base to complain about that when we spent 50 million on Onana, who doesn't at the moment look like a 50 million pound player. We've spent money, I can't remember what it was, on Daniel Marlon and decent wages, and he's barely had a look in either. We spent 30 odd million on Maatsen, and we know that was a PSR thing with Chelsea, so take some context with that as well. But I think I saw on Twitter today that he's had 10 league starts in over a year. Obviously, it's signed last summer, it's only just over a year, but that's a lot of money that we have actually spent and haven't spent maybe correctly, or we've not yet seen that it's been spent correctly. Could Onana and Maatsen be good this year? I still believe, yeah. And Marlon, to be fair, I think over the course of the season, they are going to do stuff for us. But early doors of not getting many minutes is, well, you have had money, Villa. You just probably haven't really spent it in the right areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think you're dead right there. And I think sometimes Onana looks every inch a £50 million footballer. And sometimes he looks like
$5 million
Bambi on ice. And we saw a bit of both today, really, with him. He seemed to step up a bit once Kamara went off. He seemed to kind of take the responsibility, because I thought the first 15 minutes he didn't look great. I think what frustrated me with Buendia coming on and looking at the comments, people are saying, why was he the first sub? I think that's a good question, not just for where he is in the pecking order, but presumably they've trained all week on the premise that our furthermost central midfielder is going to be Yuri Tielemans. And after 15 minutes, we're basically changing two positions. Yeah. If it's somebody that's not going to play the full game, just put Bogard in for Kamara and stick him next to Onana. Then you're making one change. You might be weakening one position a little bit, but Brentford are crap. That's the reality. Why did we show them so much respect today? To be so cautious in the lineup? They're rubbish. You predicted a 4-1 win yesterday. They got absolutely gugged last week.
I predicted 3-1 against Newcastle as well, so that doesn't say a lot.
Their own fans are fearing the worst. And we've lined up with two attackers today. And then at the first, and presumably Tielemans being further forward is the manager thinking that they're going to defend deep and look to hit us on the break and use the pace. So we would need somebody like Tielemans around the edge of the box to thread a pass. Well, that wasn't going to change just because Kamara's gone off. It's not like we were ever defensively under the cosh.
Yeah.
We didn't need to have two really good players sat right in front of the defence.
Yeah, the problem is there are problems at Villa. Wow, how many times can I say problem? There are things at Villa that can't be fixed in this transfer window. They're not going to be fixed. Pau Torres being slow to chase a ball in behind and slow to go and get a ball, stopping it going out for a throw-in, that then puts us under pressure with their massive long throw-ins. You're not going to fix that in the next 7 days.
Which, by the way, I'd have been fuming if that was the other way around. And we'd scored that, I'd have been fuming. But what was interesting that I noticed on that throw-in thing was the first one, Martinez stayed on his line and let the defenders deal with it, and he was presumably there ready to stop a shot.
Yeah.
And you could see McGinn telling him, it's like, you've got to, he was motioning to him, you've got to come out for the next one. He's come out for the next one and they've put it in the net. So,
I'd actually forgotten about that.
Even there, like what have they been coached to do in that situation? Because he's left it the first time and come out the second time. So what has he been told to do? Because it's no secret that they like launching throw-ins into the box.
I think we got away with that, by the way. I don't think that was much of a foul.
Definitely did. Like I say, if it'd been the other way around, I'd have been fuming.
Yeah, definitely. Fuming. So, there's definitely problems at Villa that I don't think they can fix with a transfer window. It's got to be tactical or application, attitude, whatever. Something in this squad at the moment is not right for whatever reason. And maybe if there are a couple of players that think, okay, well, Villa have said that, in the press is obviously very different to what the players and the staff know. But if the idea is Villa aren't going to sell anybody, but the window is still open, so there's a nagging thought in my head of what if maybe when that window closes, some players feel different and that allows them to play more freely or whatever. I am absolutely clutching for straws here. But these aren't bad players. we spoke a lot during the summer about, well, there's some positives in not doing loads of transfer business because you keep continuity of a good squad and a good squad that's finished in Europe for 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
They're not turned bad since the start of August. There's still good footballers in there, but something as a collective isn't quite right yet. So I don't know.
I'd still do wonder, and I mentioned it yesterday, if the players were told at some point that we are going to have to sell people in the summer and we just don't know who, it's going to depend on what offers we get. Because a lot of those players still look like they're not sure if they're going to be here in 2 weeks' time. You know, and I wonder, you know, and I just wonder if there is that level of uncertainty. You know, if they've been told there's still got to be one more's going to have to go. Yes, JJ's gone, and we didn't want to sell him, and clearly we didn't from everything that McGinn and Vidagarni said about it. And you just wonder if how many of the others are either thinking, is it going to be me, or who is it going to be? What's going on? You know, that level of uncertainty isn't good. They've all been all the good players have been linked with moves away from us over the summer, and it can't all just be clickbait nonsense. Some of it's got to have an element of truth to it.
But there is a part of that from Villa's perspective that, let's say Chelsea come in for Rodgers on Monday with 70 million, and Villa go, you know, okay, look, we probably can't accept that. I don't think they're going to do any business with that. Or they would have to do some business because they're obviously looking at players anyway. But you're not going to rebuild the side in a week. So it's kind of like, it's almost like Villa couldn't do that big sale now, even if they did get an offer. So we're in a really strange position. If this was, you know, the 23rd of July and somebody gets a big offer, and then you still have plenty of time to change things, but you don't now. So there's no value to Villa and Unai Emery by making a big sale now.
I think Martinez is the only one, realistically, that if they were to sell him, you know, the impact on the playing structure would be minimal based on what we saw last week. I'm not saying that the replacement or the backup goalkeeper is as good as Martinez, but yeah, to your point, you know, we've got what appears to be an able deputy that can step in, even if it's just for 6 months, to get us through to Christmas. Whereas any of the others, you know, people in the comments saying, yeah, take 70 million for Rodgers. And yeah, perhaps 6 weeks ago, that might have been a decent shout. But like you say, right now, what are we going to do unless he is going to put those attacking players in? Because he obviously likes something that Rodgers brings to the table, because he's seemingly undroppable. Yeah. And that's a worry in itself. You know, he's still a kid and he's played a lot of football in the last 18 months.
Is that his 50th game for us or something today? Or
50th Premier League appearance. He played in the Champions League matches. He's been playing for England.
Well, we've probably not had many more than 50 Premier League games since he's been with us. So, you know, we know that he plays pretty much most
of the games,
Yeah.
He's got to have, unless he's been suspended, or, you know, I think he did get a bit of a suspension for bookings, didn't he? But yeah, you know, so what is it that's, because it's interesting that he seems to have become the fulcrum of the team. He seems undroppable, and yet we actually played a better style of football up to a point until he became the focal point of the team. When he'd just come in from Middlesbrough and was playing on the left, it wasn't all about him.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it really is so dependent on Torres being able to find him in the middle of the field and him being able to conjure something up. And it's got to be, something's got to change. As somebody's put in the comments there about we've got a manager who hasn't got a plan B. I think he has. You know, we've seen that we can play incisive football. The trouble is, it's just that option's not getting deployed enough. That second half performance today wasn't off the back of a bollocking. That was a tactical change.
We always start, the first halves are always bad. Even in games when we go on to be all right in the second half, first half often terrible.
Yeah. And I used to think, is he trying to tire the opposition out, get them to run side to side, and, you know, then we'll do them in the second half with the substitutes and whatever. Even if that is the case, it's been found out. You know, Newcastle were happy to press us because that's what they do all the time. Brentford knew they didn't need to. Worst case scenario, they'd get a draw. Sit back with 11 men and Villa won't score. And it's proven. What, have we had 3 shots on target in our first 2 Premier League games? No attackers on the field. What do you expect?
Let's try and end with some kind of positive, Rob. One game to go before the international break. We got somebody tweeting me saying we can never say must win again, but the longer it goes that we don't win a game,
Yeah.
we got to win one of them. We're at home. Yes, it's Palace. Put that to one side. You've got to try and do something. It's going to be a pretty tetchy week potentially if they don't do much business as well. Like if the business goes down to deadline day after Palace, we could really do with something like pretty quick, to be honest, to kind of at least give us all a lift of, oh, well, so I think you said yesterday in the preview that transfers are hope, right? So if somebody comes in on Monday with the chance of maybe playing against Palace, that's hope. That's something to hold our hat on potentially. If Villa do bring in a centre-back / right-back mould player who would have played today, potentially, as the right centre-back, if they bring in Asensio, let's say, for argument's sake, and Nicholas Jackson, if that was done in the next 7 to 10 days, whenever the window finishes, and Villa get a result against Palace, these podcasts and the comments and the fan base and social media will all feel very different of optimism and, okay, we can maybe go and beat Everton, Sunderland, Fulham. Okay, we've now got, 10 points out of the first 16 or something. No, that's pretty good, actually. That's okay. And that's all I've got for you, mate, at the moment. I can't kind of conjure up anymore. And my positive is a hypothetical what if, which shows you where we are at the moment.
My positive would be that at least Ezzy's signed for Arsenal today.
Yeah.
That's what I've got, because in terms of cold, hard facts, that's what we've got. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. And I probably haven't got too much more to say today. All summer, well, in fact, since the last home game of last season, where Emi Martinez was in tears after the match, there's been a lot of uncertainty around our football club, and nothing has happened to make that go away to this point. And you can smell it on the pitch. I think the players are standing there thinking, if we have a good run in the Europa League, we're facing another 60, 70 game season here. There's only so much we can run them lads into the ground. You know, and I think that we need to get players in, clearly. And the manager's got to be braver with his approach and with his team selection. It's just not, I don't know how many times I've said it in this, 2 attacking players away at Brentford who got absolutely humped last week.
That'll do, mate. We're done. Wow, almost 45 minutes. I haven't even been looking at the time.
I thought we'd be done in 20. The missus is going to be fuming when I get back out there.
We had a comment actually from Daniela who donated saying it's next week and must win. So I did answer. I just forgot to mention it. I just want to end with one quick thing, and I've done this before. Lots of John criticism. I hate it. I really don't like it. John's a top lad. I work with him a lot. He works for the company. So this replace John with Rob. No offense, Rob. That's not going to happen. John's really good at what he does.
John's way better at this stuff than I am. I get to show up and say what I like and then disappear for 6 weeks.
If you don't like John, it's fine. If you don't like me, that's fine. If you don't like Rob, that's fine. I don't need to see it in the comments. John's a clown. John's this. John, forget about it. If you don't like things, just go away. It's okay. Yeah. I don't need to see it. I'm sick of kind of like having to defend people, because John will be on the podcast on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. He works for the company.
He'll do a very good job of it as usual.
Yeah, exactly. Just if you don't want to listen, that's fine. Just don't slag people off in the comments. I don't like it. Just he's a young lad and people pick on him. It's not nice. I don't like it. Yeah. Anyway, Rob, thank you for joining me. I do massively appreciate it. Obviously, you did the preview yesterday because bloody John Townley was stuck on the motorway. How dare he? No, obviously kidding. It was okay that. I thought that was going to be a lot more negative and pessimistic than it was. And it was quite bad, but I thought it was going to be even worse. So we've managed to get through it, haven't we, together?
Yeah. Well, the big thing for me, I would say my closing bit would be, as evidenced by the second half, it's in our hands to make things better. Even if we don't sign any more players, it's in our hands to make things better.
That makes it harder, though, but yeah.
And Emery's done an incredible job to this point, but he changed something last summer, which he then changed back a bit for the last 9 games of the, or 8 of the last 9 games of the season, and then reverted back to this tippy-tappy nonsense for the last game of the season. We got done and missed out on Champions League football, and we did it in the cup semi-final. The players can do it. The manager can set them up to do it. We just need to see some bravery, and that's what we're lacking, is bravery. Somebody's got to get after it, and it's got to start with the manager.
Okay. Rob, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you to those who watched along live on YouTube this evening. We really appreciate you tuning in and getting involved with the comments as per. We'll be back again on Monday with a big fat juicy Q&A Monday morning, and then we'll do some bits and pieces throughout the week to preview Palace and hopefully talk about some transfers as well. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Right. Cheers everyone for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you Monday.
See you later.